So many people start out with such good intentions and you plan to declutter and you're like, this is a chance for a fresh start, right? And we're like, this is going to be so awesome. I'm going to declutter. I'm going to be ruthless. But packing and moving takes like 3 to 4 times as long as I think any of us anticipate. So often we start out really well, but by the end, we are just shoving stuff into boxes.
Yeah.
So I think you are exactly right on. I think tip number 1 is to start early with exactly what you're doing. And I think it's also important when you're packing to make sure you have a donation box with you at all times, because it has to be as easy to donate it as it is to put it in a packing box. So literally like having both the boxes with you when you go to pack, because often that's what happens, right? We're crunched on time, we're feeling stressed out, so it's like, I'm just going to throw it in the packing box and I'll deal with it on the other end. But if we literally have a trash bag and a donation box with us too, then at least it's as easy to donate it as it is to pack it. Well, Cambriea, will you tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel and about your family?
I run the channel Living with Cambriea, which is purely all about just like motivating moms. I'm a mom of 3. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Well, I hate saying stay-at-home mom. I'm a work-from-home mom, and just keeping your house in order when you've got kids to take to school and toddlers running around, a husband that works 50 million hours, and all the things that come along with it. I have 3 kids. So my oldest is Xander. He's actually 9 years old. Bjorn, who is 6, and then Freya is my youngest. She is 17 months.
Yes, you have a busy household. And this is a question that comes up often, is tips for decluttering to move. So I'm glad that you're actually in the process of packing to move, because you are right in the middle of this right now. So tell us about your upcoming move.
My husband has been in the military for over 20 years now and is finally getting out. We're going through the last couple steps, and we are moving across the country, out of Wisconsin into Florida to get some warm weather. But we aren't planning on moving until the kids are done with school. But starting now, we have been working our way through the house, room by room, packing what we can pack and decluttering as much as possible. I think it's really important to start early.
Yes. No, that's awesome, because what happened the last time that you moved?
Last time I moved, it was like a huge rush. 1, we weren't expecting to move so quickly, and 2, it was for my husband's civilian job, so we had movers come in and move us, and it was like very tight frame. So now we're noticing, as we're moving now, going through some boxes that we had never gone through, that the packers moved last time, just a bunch of stuff we don't even need.
And so what is what criteria are you using right now to decide, am I going to declutter this or am I going to pack it?
I am being very ruthless. So I actually called a moving company. Figuring out what it costs to move was a big motivator. If a large truck costs $5,000, but a small truck costs $2,500, that's a lot of money. So thinking about that when I'm going through it, my kids' furniture. Eventually, we're going to be donating all of that. 1, it's from when I was a teenager, has been painted 5 times, and it's just not worth moving it cross country and spending all that money to have it moved. I also think it's a big deal for starting early. Is I've always felt that decluttering is a process. I don't know anyone that can declutter a room to its fullest in one step. Where if you do a little bit this month and then you go back and you're like, all right, I saved that, but I shouldn't have, and you get rid of even more.
Yeah. That is so true, isn't it? So as you've been going, are there any things, or any categories of things that have been hanging you up that you're like, I just don't know if we're going to need this in the next house?
Biggest thing is furniture. Those are my biggest thing. We haven't gotten to clothing yet, but I know that's going to be another big thing, because we've got a lot of clothing, obviously, here in Wisconsin that we're not going to need down there, or I don't think we need, but who knows. But I have found, I used 1-800-GOT-JUNK for the first time the other day. And they are amazing.
How was it?
They came, they grabbed everything I wanted them to grab. And I even because we're really big into donating, I don't want to see anything just go into a landfill. I want it recycled, I want it donated. if it's garbage, it's garbage, but and talking with them, they're really cool. They're like, nope, we donate everything that needs to be donated. They go through and scrap the wood to the metal to like everything.
So they actually do that? They'll sort it out?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And along those same lines, another tip I heard from Dana from A Slob Comes Clean, who moved recently, she said through like moving stores, I'm not sure if it was U-Haul or a different one, but you can buy a set of boxes based on like your house size. So if you're like, I have like a 3-bedroom house or whatever, you can actually buy a set of boxes that your house should be able to fit in. So what she did was she bought a set of boxes and she said, this is all that we're packing. So if it doesn't fit in here, we're not taking it. And so she used like the container concept to say, this is our limit. And so put in the most important stuff first. But if it doesn't fit, we're not taking it, and we'll figure it out on the other side. And I thought that was a really good idea.
Really good. I didn't even know that was an option to get boxes like that, but that is really smart.
And again, you're investing in buying the boxes. I mean, we try to like reuse all the Amazon boxes and everything, but I do think, like you said, there are some investments that might be really worthwhile, like using 1-800-GOT-JUNK or buying a set of boxes, knowing that in the long run, it really is going to save us because we're not moving extra stuff. Not to mention the mental, I mean, to get down there, like you said, you're unpacking boxes still that you packed years ago. So I mean, to really, like, as a kindness to ourselves, to move as little as possible. Another thing, as far as the clothing, I would just set a limit for that, too, for each person in the household. Like, we're going to bring this much for each one. I know with your kids spread out, you want to, like, probably save some clothes to pass on to kids, too. But I think that's been the biggest thing for me, is to say, like, I have one tote of extra clothes for each of the kids. I put in the favorites, the most high quality pieces, but then beyond that, kids' clothing is actually fairly easy to come by inexpensively. Man, especially when you get to Florida, you could like garage sale all the time. That's gonna be so nice.
Well, and they grow out so fast also. Honestly, when it comes to clothes, my husband's going to be the hardest part, because like I've been really good. I have like one little rack in our closet full of clothes. He's got a full rack, a full dresser, and the dresser that I had that I have downsized, and I now have 2 drawers. He's taken the rest of the drawers. So he's the one I'm going to be getting on the most about it.
Yeah. So do you think for him, if you were like, okay, you can bring whatever you want, but it has to fit in these boxes or these totes, do you think that would be helpful to give him some kind of parameters, or not necessarily?
Possibly. He's definitely someone that I have been like, every couple of months we go through his clothes. And he's getting better. Like the first time we did it, I think I got rid of like 2 black garbage bags, and he got rid of half a black garbage bag. I'm like, you have 5 times the amount of clothes that I do, and I got rid of 4 times the amount that you did. But like this last time, he did really good. And he also is like realizing, okay, we're not going to need all these giant sweaters or the work button-ups that you're not going to be having the same job. You don't need it down there. So I'm hoping. T-shirts are his biggest battle. But man, do you know a guy that doesn't have an issue with T-shirts? Because I think it's every man out there.
That seems to be common. It's kind of like, that's kind of like their sentimental thing of whether it's from old sports teams or different things. Like they seem to have like a lot of memories attached to those. And I think too, understanding that there's probably going to be some margin of error. Like none of us ever want to be wasteful, but it's really hard to know for sure if you're going to use something in the next house, especially if you're not using it in this house. And I think sometimes we glamorize it like, oh, well, I might not have used this in the last 5 years ever, but when I get to Florida, I'm for sure going to use it. And to really be realistic with ourselves of like, if I'm not using it currently in this house, like, unless I know for sure there's a place to hang that picture on the wall or to put this nightstand or whatever, to be willing to let go of it now, trusting that, like, there's going to be some margin of error. I'm not going to make perfect decisions, but that's okay. And I think setting that threshold for each of us, like, okay, maybe I'm okay spending $100 when I get there on Marketplace to find new decorations or a new piece of furniture for this space. But again, this idea that I would rather do that than and buy something specific for the new space than move everything down there and then decide once we get down there, oh yeah, I guess I didn't actually need this stuff anymore.
Yeah, to like get a new house, redecorate it, like put your own brand new spin on a brand new place. Like, if you think about it, it really is a lot of fun to do things like that. So really, I'm looking at artwork in my house that I bought at Hobby Lobby for $10. Well, I could probably buy a new one that fits the theme and the style and the new vibes down there and not have to take up room in a box.
Yeah, I think that's so good. And so when it comes to now like decluttering or packing kid stuff, I know a lot of parents always are looking for advice for like simplifying toys and kid stuff. Have you had difficulties with that with your kids? Are they pretty willing to part with stuff, or how's that been for them?
So I talk about this all the time on my channel because that is the one question parents have all the time. And first, I remind parents, one, do your stuff first because kids learn by example. But two, we have more sentimental like pull usually to our kids' stuff than our kids do. So I started my kids really young with decluttering. We do it about twice a year. And they do it with me, and it's just always one of those things of right before birthdays, hey, you're going to get some really cool new stuff. Let's get rid of all the stuff you don't want. And there are times, like this last time I went through the kids' stuff, I just did it a couple weeks ago. And I did it without them to start, which I don't normally do, except there were board games that I know were missing like 3/4 of the things, but my kids didn't want to get rid of them, so I had to do that without them. But then I had them come back in after school and go through the stuff. They got rid of another like 20 things because I was like, oh, Bjorn just bought this at a rummage sale this year. He's going to want it. And he's like, no, I don't want that. That can go. So starting them young, I feel like is really, really important. And realizing that
I think
that stuffed bear is probably more of a sentimental thing to us than them.
That's so good. I'll never forget the first time I really highly simplified our kids' toys was because we were moving, and it was kind of one of the last things I had gotten to decluttering. But we were going to list our townhouse, and our whole basement family room was like lined with toys because we had 4 kids, like little kids, right? And that's what you do. And so I packed up like 90% of them while Tom took them away. And when they got home, I was like prepared to be like, you guys, it's okay. Your toys are in boxes. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, they're there. When we get to the new house, we'll unpack them and you can have them all. They did not care. They walked in and our 3-year-old was like, there's room to do gymnastics. And they just started playing with the toys that were there. And it was then that I realized that kids actually do better in really simple spaces with a few toys than with all these toys. And so moving can actually be such a great time to declutter toys. Even if you do end up boxing up a lot of them, don't unpack them like until they like ask for it by name. And if they don't ask for it like in the first like 3 months when you get to where you're going, just donate the whole box. Don't go through it again. Don't ask them to look through it again. Just donate them all and you won't even miss them at all.
Yes. And that is so true when it comes to like kids enjoying their toys. They can actually find their favorite Lego kit or whatever they're looking for. They enjoy them so much more when it's not a toy box or shelves upon shelves of whatever. And I look at things a little bit differently because I actually have a seizure disorder, which my brain works very similar to a kid where I can get really frazzled really easy. So I really understand that. Like when my house gets really overwhelmed, I can like see it in my kids' eyes where they want to play, but there's like so much. Or they go into their room and just looking at it, you can just see the like, this is too much. I can't handle this. So being able to recognize that often kids' brains literally go on overload. We do that often just in our kids' playrooms.
Yeah. That's so good that you recognize that. I felt the same way, that like if it stresses us out when we look at their room or their playroom, then it's stressing them out too. They just don't always know how to express that, right? So they express it by not playing well, by fighting with their siblings, not getting engaged in the toys. So I think you are exactly right on. Well, Cambriea, is there any other tips or ideas you want to share about that you're coming across as you're decluttering to move before we go today?
I don't think so. I think the biggest thing is, like we were saying in the beginning, start early. If you can do one room a week and give yourself weeks to do it, you're going to make it so much easier. And then when it comes to actually packing, doing that like final finishing touches will be so much easier and less stressful. Plus, if you're trying to sell a house, starting early, that way when you're staging, so much easier to sell when people can come in and envision themselves in your home compared to you in your home.
So you are so right on. Exactly. Well, awesome. Well, I will encourage everyone to check out your channel because they can see you declutter, but also all the cleaning I imagine you're going to be doing as you get your house ready to sell and move. So that's going to be really fun to follow along your journey.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks, Cambriea. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.